And for that very reason, our corporation is actually known as Every Arkansan Inc. We have two ministries that really work together in tandem to see that mission take place. We have the Arkansas Dream Center, which is going out and we're reaching out to the communities. We're in those communities with mobile trucks. We're doing after school, we're feeding, we're doing all those things you know us for doing. But in addition, we realize that the church is the answer to a lot of society's problems, and there's one on every corner. So we have City Serve that comes along the side of the church, and they provide the resources. They provide furniture and clothing and diapers and all these things to the local churches so they can reach out to their neighbors. And together, when those two start to mesh, we're going out and we're bringing the churches alongside of them, and we're equipping and we're resourcing those churches. We can truly empower the local church with the resources they need to strengthen relationships in their communities. And that's what our vision is for Every Arkansan Inc. And we're so glad you're a part of it.
Take rest, 'cause the living God is living.
And we are back with First and 45. Hey guys, I know that a lot of times y'all hear this stuff and you just glaze over because it's like, oh, here they are talking about violence again. And I think this is interesting. In 2025, Baltimore recorded just 133 homicides, the city's lowest number since 1977. And they're saying something changed. Baltimore didn't simply choose between being tough on crime and being soft on crime. It wasn't one thing. They attacked the problem from multiple directions. Law enforcement focused on resources on violent offenders in violent neighborhoods. But Baltimore also identified people at extraordinarily high risk of shooting someone or being shot themselves. Once again, focusing in on highly dangerous neighborhoods. And the message was simply, we're watching you. It was also, we believe your life can be different. And this goes back to, we can't just look at something and say, oh, things have changed. I mean, because crime involves housing, employment, job training, street outreach, conflict mediation, services, and accountability. And accountability without those opportunities can become a revolving door. Opportunity without accountability can become an excuse. We've got to have both of them. And you look at Proverbs 22:3. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. And when we look at this, we can't keep going in these directions in these communities. That's just not going to work. We're talking about prevention here. Prevention isn't ignoring the crime. Prevention is seeing the danger, coming out of our shells and doing something before the funeral. And I think, Coach, you hit on something that was very interesting to me. So I remember back in 2009, you were officed out of the president's house, and we were in a little house that you had remodeled, kind of catty-cornered to it on the side, on the 18th Street, which before you got a hold of it was boarded up. Crack house is what a lot of us referred it to. But within a block of the president's house, there were y'all tore down a third, and y'all tore down several right behind the president's building. There were at least 5 or 6 houses right there within a block of the president's house that they were gone. These were once homes, but now they were either boarded up, burned out, or needing to be torn down. And when you think about that, I mean, we're talking to students about looking at your future, and they look out at a past. Mm-hmm. Man, that's just got to just destroy the hope in so many. And I appreciate you spent all those years buying the boarded up, tearing them down, or fixing them up to utilize. And I know that when we look at Little Rock, we've also seen some encouraging declines in homicides this year. Praise the Lord, fewer deaths. We celebrate that life wasn't lost. We celebrate every young man who made it home. But man, I don't think declaring victory is anywhere in Mind Shot. Because when I look at it, we had a stabbing last night. I haven't seen the details on it, but we still have death on a regular. We're still having crime on a regular. We've still got people that are living in hopelessness on a regular. 1 Corinthians 12:26. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it.
Mm-hmm.
I live in a part of town that I would say has a significantly lower crime rate than where my office is located. And I was driving a gentleman around today showing off some of the areas that we're looking at for redevelopment and different thing. Took him by the hotel, drove by that, said, look, this is what the potential is here. But if one neighborhood is suffering, we're all suffering. And we've got a lot of suffering neighborhoods. We got a lot of suffering families. If one school is producing young people who cannot read, that is our future in our community. That's not, that neighborhood problem. That's a citywide problem. If one neighborhood has young men who can't find employment, that's a problem, because those young men that can't find employment in their neighborhood, they're going to go look for other opportunities for revenue in our neighborhood.
Correct.
It's not my neighborhood and your neighborhood, it's our city. And we've got to look at it that way, because these children growing up surrounded by trauma, that's a problem.
Well, to your point, that's the reason the book that I wrote, Putting the Neighbor Back in the Hood.
Right.
And that's and the video that, I'll start sharing some clips on it that maybe Peter can cut it up for us and we can share. That was the whole goal in writing, and how do we really put the neighbor back in the hood? Because as long as it's a neighborhood, this is the things that you're speaking of. When the neighbor leaves, then that's when you give the hood connotation that what does that mean? And that's why, the movie Boys in the Hood meant so much to me, to realize, what happens when the young man had a father versus the three that did not have. Yeah, and when you think about in his book, I referenced this, when the impact of fathers and listen, I it could be debatable. You have to, you don't have, but here's what the data says: that the father is so impactful that it removes anything about race and crime just based on that. So if you look at in his book, he talks about the role of the father. It does not have the outcome and effects that we have what we're dealing with race and what we're dealing with, the disparity of numbers. Just put that person there, as we saw in the 20s, 30s, 40s. We didn't have it. No. The structure that God intended for it to be. Now, hey, I lost my father. Okay. Fortunate, I had two uncles, in a community and from a neighborhood that stepped in the gap. That's going to happen. And so, those are things that we can't really account for. But what we have to acknowledge is this thing that we see, that we have the disparity of the facts of the fatherless communities that's impacted in high crime rate. And then you just have that race designation to it that we say we can remove that just by putting the father back in the situation. It decreases those odds and those numbers. And so, and what does that go to? That goes to the 10 Commandments. That goes to the biblical stance that we're supposed to live. And by doing that, it keeps us out of this deal where we're investing in prisons. We're investing in drug rehabilitation, all the things that we said that a father helps keeps particularly young men out of.
And it's just like you just said, it'd be interesting in what the statistic looked like for individuals. Let's go back to our years in the 60s, where we were raised and had fathers, right? And look at you, third generation right now, you're headed to coach your grandchild, which
because I'm 62 and I made it out of the danger zone.
made it out of danger zone. But I'm just saying, statistically, when you look at the parallel, I had a father, right? Yeah. I got my grandchildren who are being raised by my son. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the father is there in the home. If you look at the statistics from the dynamics of us.
Right.
And look at those numbers, you'll see a pattern where the disparities that we're talking about on the average is not going to be there for those that had parents.
And having a relationship. Let me tell you what's so funny Saturday, because I wasn't at the game that he mentioned, the baseball game. So I bought Dice a new bat. Mm-hmm. It was 1 pound heavier than he had. He hadn't struck out ever in a game until the new bat. But he hadn't used a new bat because I had it shipped to him. Okay. DJ, she was probably as low as Dice was. He struck out. So she texted me, Daddy, he's in a slump. Da 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 da. So she knows her coach. She said, what do you think? I said, don't overreact. Go get his new bat. Go get his old bat. What he knows, because it's tied to success. He went back up there after being that popped out, bat too heavy. Mm-hmm. All right, he's underneath the ball. He can't swing it fast enough. But I'm saying that because my daughter sitting at the game texted me on what's wrong with her son to try to do that.
She needed to play.
That was special to your point.
Yeah.
That to have, grand coach to sit there to do that to you, even my daughter. You know what I'm saying? I said, and I was sitting there texting right back, what'd he do? Because normally they're online, right. But to your point, see, the reason that's really important to me, I never had a grandfather at any of the games of my children. Never. So that's why I said, I was telling Darren today, because I told him about that, I said, I never had that. And my goal is not to miss any that I don't have to, and to make sure I'm there to replace that. So if that's a 4-hour drive for me, down and back to do that. But the return on the investment is greater than the 4-hour drive, So, but that's the sacrifice that we make for investing in our kids. And she kept saying, is grand coach coming? Is grand coach coming on Saturday? No, he's not coming today, but that's what they expect, look up there and see, okay, happy.
There he is.
There he is. That's exactly right. And so can you imagine when that becomes your normal, that you don't have that? And then the normal when you do have it, man, just think about that. And so that's why Brian Miller's back in town. Meet with him. He started 6th and goal back up. For the man, we're so excited to replace those role models with those coaches, because we said 3 things we want you to do: practice with them twice a week, eat lunch with them on Friday, and be with them Saturday morning. Game changer. Just that alone is a game changer. And so that's replacing, that help putting the neighbor back in the hood.
Yeah. And I think oftentimes when we look at these changes, these statistics that change, it's like, oh, well, they did X or they did Y. And it's really a lot more complicated. Violence is complicated because human beings are complicated. Ecclesiastes 4:9 says, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. This isn't just police doing it on their own, or schools doing it on their own, or governments or nonprofits or the church. This is every Arkansan. And when I say every Arkansan in the organization, I mean every Arkansan lowercase e, because that's what we believe. Our name is every Arkansan lowercase e getting their proper place so things can change. Because hitting a baseball can be as simple as changing out a bat, but there's a whole lot more mechanics in it that requires multiple people with multiple skills to be engaged in. Changing our communities and seeing these statistics and these numbers change is going to require more people stepping in, getting involved in these different little areas so that we can see lives change.
That's right.
And when we see lives change, we will see our communities change from the inside out. Hey guys, it is that time. We're going into halftime of 1st and 45 with Coach FitzHill. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
So long, yeah. I got a light inside so strong. Don't wanna lose this here, no. Your love, it pours on and on. Got me up.
as a former football coach, knowing the engagement that takes place on the football field, the basketball courts, the track, baseball, outside of extracurricular activity, META is the best academic curriculum I've seen for the oftentimes socially challenged student. And glad to have a pilot program going here now with Hamilton Learning Academy, as well as juvenile detention facility, to inspire, grow hope to a population of kids who sometimes don't believe that in the United States that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is for them. And so this opportunity allows them to see that, to feel that, and to engage in that, and to leave here thinking that I can do something that maybe they didn't think they could do prior to enrolling in the META 24 program.
All right, who's the CFO? Yeah. Come on up. Give the CFO a round of applause. All right, what's the marketing promotion team?
My name's Shania, and I make this pillow. It's a baby pillow for baby. It can be for a boy or for a girl. It's saying, be what you want to be. I really want to make a side hustle of this and give pillows to the hospital so you don't get good rest with soft pillows like this.
I want to 3D print some stuff that will help us in the world. I would love to print 3D houses to help architects build real houses, because there's a lot of people in the world that homeless right now, and I feel like if I'm able to print 3D houses, I feel like architects can make more houses faster.
Hey, yeah, Holy Spirit, come into my life. Won't you wrap me up inside your life? Whoa, I know everything's gonna be alright, right. Best believe this shit gonna last for life. Whoa, make it better.
And we're back with First and 45 with Coach FitzHill. Thank you, Pastor Drew, for Dr. Drew, Pastor Drew, all of that for the first great first half. And Coach, I know you're excited, and it just really resonated, man, to think about that you're connected. You're responsible, really, for 3 generations. Number one, you got to take care of you. Secondly, you have you got Juice, even though he's grown and gone, he's still a part of your bloodline, and taking care of him, your daughters, and you got, little Dice, and you go into the big game.
Yeah, no, it is something that, health and well-being is something that I'm even trying to make sure I do better, to make sure that I don't have to face the things that my children don't have to face the thing I did of early death. I lost my father at 51, my oldest brother at 41, my mother at 50, and thinking that I've been able to continue to hopefully stay on top of my health and well-being. We often talk about homicide. We know how illness can also impact the livelihood of ours by not having the proper diet, the health and exercise, all things that we need to do, that I definitely want to make sure that I'm doing all I can to be the best that I can, to become the best version of myself. And but I even go back a little bit farther to realize how blessed we are. And when I think back about when I go visit the cemetery, I can walk up to the separated fence. And it's really something, I didn't notice this to the fence until we buried my father in 1983. I had cut that cemetery many, many, many times. As a young lad with my uncles and things would go out, but I never realized why there was a fence between the 2 different cemeteries. It just never hit me. It did not resonate, did not ever think about it until getting back in the family car, driving up the road. I guess his death really brought a different mindset to me. And I looked up there and wondered, why do we have a fence separating the dead people? And as I looked at it, it was the cemetery for the white people and cemetery for the black people. And I just asked God, I said, why are we buried separately if we all going to heaven? Or are we all going to hell? Why would we have a fence there? And in my book, I took a picture of that fence, and I talked about opportunities and access to equality, and just looking at how things, sometimes we don't even understand why we have fences in our lives, and why that fence, what did it stand for? And why was it there? Because we cut both sides of the fence. We cut the blacks and the whites. So I'm just wondering, it's a long story. But up next to the fence is my great-great-grandfather's grave. Next to the fence, Watson Hill, born 1828, into slavery, okay? Came to Southwest Arkansas and decided to change his name to Hill because of a white man was nice to him. And he changed his name at that point. So that's the reason I can go back to him in 1828, so far as we can go back. But I think about the 6 generations. You just mentioned that, so you just triggered a thought. You say 3. But my problems today, Watson prayed for what I have today. So this was only a fantasy to him in 1828 to think about the life he was living. Okay, and then Jasper, my great-grandfather, then my grandfather Freeman, and found out on his grave, you know why he's named Freeman? Because he's a free man. So they named him Freeman. They were so happy that he was free. Because, that's not when you start thinking about that name, Freeman Hill. And so when I think about opportunities, and that's why I'm driven so to think about life, that when we're, when I look at this epidemic of killing ourselves, it was almost, I thought about this time, why of what we fought so hard for freedom, to be free. And the opportunity that we have, and it was resonated to me when I went to Rwanda, when I was in Saudi Arabia, when I was fighting, in the Gulf War, and I was telling our kids this: do you realize the opportunities you have in the United States of America? Who else? Are you trying to sneak to Mexico? Are you trying to float to Cuba? Are you trying to steal a way into the United States of America? All right. So now America's not perfect, but the places I've been, this is a better place to be than those. And so I say that to say we are truly blessed, even in the midst of things you were talking about, Pastor Drew. Okay. So, but now, how can we make things better? To your point, because I look at this as football season come around. So now I'm getting ready for my pigskin pick for the first week. So I'm doing my little research and looking at, do y'all realize, and I'm going to talk a little football tonight because with Coach Fitz, because I want y'all to really understand how I really think this has impacted the Razorbacks. Now, this is anecdotal, but I know a little bit about recruiting. I recruited, for a little time. But if I ask you all a question, if I said on a roster of the Arkansas Razorbacks football team, if I ask you how many players from Arkansas that you thought was on the Razorback team for the 2026 football season, how many would you say, Bishop?
The average is usually about 3.
No, I'm saying on the whole team.
On the whole team.
The whole team. Yeah, the whole team, not the class, the whole team of Arkansas Razorback. When I was back, you're looking at 30 to 40 of the whole 85 scholarships at that time. So how many would you think today versus against the average?
40,
okay.
45.
Okay, Drew?
It's got to be significantly lower, because every spring I'm looking at these students that are deciding which school they're going to go to and play ball. And it's very rare that I see Arkansas on there for football. Other sports, but not football. Yeah.
Well, if you go back and look at the whole roster that I was going through, the Hootens magazine, as I was looking at the numbers, you had in the signing class, there were 20 high school signees. And to look at that, you had 10 players in that class. And in the transfer portal of the over 40 kids signed, you have 1 from Arkansas. So you're talking about a total on this roster, 11 players from Arkansas on that team. Total. Who are rooted in Arkansas. Now, I just want you to understand, nobody's understanding what that means. So that means that when you start looking at it, and here's how the breakdown was of the 10 high school players that were signed. 1 from North Little Rock, 2 from Bryant, 1 from Little Rock. Okay, so you had 4. Northwest Arkansas, 2 from Fayetteville, 1 from Bentonville. Okay, 6. 1 from Wynn, 1 from Hot Springs. Okay, so that's how you're looking at your numbers when you do when you're bringing up 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the other young man is actually 10. It's not 11. I counted him as a signee, but he was a grad transfer from Ouachita, who was from Warren, who went to Arkansas. So that was not a grad transfer, but the only portal guy came from Warren, who went to Ouachita and entered the portal and signed at Arkansas. So you have 10 individuals who will be on the roster this year as Arkansans. Now, from a history standpoint, I don't know how you sustain that, because football, if you have the opportunity to sign these students, you're not producing enough numbers to keep you competitive. So this is the reason that I believe, can you believe Vanderbilt was picked over Arkansas this year in 2026? Vanderbilt. Now, I don't know if that's ever happened, that to think that they will be better than the Razorbacks. Vanderbilt. That's a perception, not reality. Yeah. And I met Coach, and I hope he does well. I'm just looking at these numbers as I know them. And my point is not to be critical of the football program. My point now, as we have discussion, is to say, where is the talent? And I'm saying that because 2 years ago, I got the data from the Pulaski County Juvenile Prosecutor's Office, and I found there were 47 individuals who had committed violent crimes. This was attempted murder and murder. Of the 47, there were 44 Black youth of the 47. I got to visit 9 of those to do a little survey to try to understand, how did this happen? When I left there, some of them had known me and asked, could they, during their recreation time, could I bring them footballs and basketballs to play with? I'm saying on odds, that number is what we're working on for suspensions, disengaged from school, dropouts, which oftentimes lead to those activities. On average, I'm going to say, even if they're not Arkansas caliber, but to have an opportunity to develop, to be recruited, is so important for a rural state like Arkansas that's not producing the talented numbers that Texas, Louisiana, and other states have, which is the reason we are that we have descended to the bottom. And so that's why a place like Vanderbilt, which is in a small state like Tennessee, but they have academics that they're looking forward to recruit to, it makes you really wonder, well, what's really going on? Well, our numbers are really, really impacting us. And I'm saying it because there was one 4-star that I worked with in our camp that he asked me to help him get recruited. Well, that young man would have been recruited by everybody had he not been in a juvenile detention facility. So in Arkansas, those numbers are very impactful because our state is so small. In Texas, California, Louisiana, the numbers don't matter because you got 60 or 70. Here, when you only got 10 to 15, and you're losing 4 or 5 of them, you're losing 30 to 40% of your population. Hey, we're going to talk more about this when we come back, 1st and 45, with Dr. Drew, Fred, Waventile Fred, and Coach Fitz. We'll be right back.
thing ain't never gonna change. God is good, all the time. If he ain't, then you lying.
Black men have so many different problems, so many different issues. Homicide rate, high incarceration rate, fatherless homes. What is America gonna do about it?
What are we gonna do about it? Yeah, what are we gonna do about it? When I say we, I'm talking to black men. I'm asking us, what are we gonna do about issues that negatively impact black men and boys to a greater degree than other demographics? Everybody knows about the homicide epidemic in this country regarding black men and boys. While comprising only 6% of the nation's population, will account for 50% of the nation's homicide victims. So what are we gonna do about it? Here's another disturbing reality. While making up only 6% of the nation's population, we're about 40% of the nation's prison population. In fact, 1 in 3 black males are projected to go to jail in their lifetime. Again, I ask, what are we gonna do about it? Collectively, black men have the means to solve these problems. We just don't have the mind to do so. And means without the mind is meaningless. Brother, it doesn't mean a thing.
If he ain't, then you lying in the rain, in the sun. God is good all the time.
Okay, we're back with First and 45 with Coach FitzHill. And Coach, okay, the last quarter is finalized in talking about football. Those are some staggering numbers. I did not know that, you would think that with Arkansas primary sport being football, that we would have greater level of recruits in that.
Well, and I think it's indicative of what our records have been in the last few years, because if you go back, when I started looking at this in 1998, probably, we're 8-0 playing Tennessee 8-0, and we got a chance to really, we dominated the game. If you go back and look and see how many of our starters were from Arkansas that developed, you take Brandon Burlsworth, Zach Painter, Russell Garrett. I mean, all these kids who Hubert Laudermill, the receivers that you look at to play, David Barrett, defensive lineman. So I think it's about 8 of our starting 22, 11 were from Arkansas. So that's about the ratio of 35 to 40% that it should be, because on average, there should be, in which this number is indicative if we can keep it. So and I applaud the efforts of the coach, because they signed, these 10 recruits out of Arkansas. So if you continue on that path and you keep them in over the next 4 years, you will get back to that number. Okay, so let's just say you do 10 every year, retain them. You'll be back at the number. Yeah. So on average,
if you can retain them with the
NIL, that's exactly right. And so but it should be special for a kid to be able to want to stay and play in his home state. Another factor, I was looking at it, I was doing my sports talk stuff, is that Arkansas says it has it's number 36 in the blue chip ratio, which says that it has a 13% chance of winning a national championship based on its current roster. Now, here's the reason why you say, well, something's wrong. Well, Vanderbilt is 50 on the blue chip ratio with an 8% chance of winning a national championship based on 4 and 5 stars, but they picked them ahead of the Razorbacks. So I'm saying that does not correlate with based on the talent level that you have. But look at the other states which I'm mentioning, and I'm saying this because I know this is not supposed to be a sports show, but I'm saying this because the epidemic, this black male homicide epidemic, is greatly impacting the talent level across 4 years at Arkansas. When you start looking, just think, guys, if you decrease that population I'm talking about of 47 kids in the state of Arkansas for 3 to 4 kids a year.
Yep.
Okay. That's 12 kids, 12 to 15 kids a year who, because everybody can't play. You're only talking about a very small percentage get to play D1 anyway. So you have to when you elevate, you're separating yourself based on your talent level. So this is not, something that's just given out. You have to be able to run, jump,
Right.
your talent. you have to have talent. But the blue chip ratio is saying this year that Georgia, because of its talent, has an 84% chance of winning national championship based on its roster. Notre Dame, 80%, Ohio State, 78%, Texas A&M, 76%, Texas, 70%, and Oregon. Now, this is one that Arkansas, if I was recruiting coordinator, I'd be looking at how can we become Oregon? Because Oregon's population is like Arkansas's. They don't have a whole lot of people. So they have a national brand of recruiting, and Nike has basically changed the game for them. So we have to have a game changer. So what else do that Nike do? You see all them uniforms they be wearing, all them duckies and everything, all that colors and stuff. So it's a very special appeal. So you got to be wild when you're trying to be different if you're trying to win. And so a lot of people at traditional say, why they wear that yellow and all that there? Well, that's what the kids want to wear. So they're not recruiting you. They're recruiting those kids right there. So they're really, when you look at them in the state, they're one of the smallest in the top 10. You take Oregon from a population standpoint, they're the ones who with the small state population like Arkansas. And Notre Dame is a national recruiting platform that you have. But all of these states that have the greatest chance of winning a national championship in the top 10, they have a plethora of players to recruit from within a 4-hour radius. And so hopefully this will help us as we continue to try to build a program, and understanding that if what Coach did this year, if we can continue to add 10 every year in 4 years, we're back to the number, and that will be building the program, accordingly, because that will give you the stability that you need. Because if you go out, sign somebody from another state, then you come in from another state, he goes and wants to go back home, because of transfer portal, then all you're doing is developing your JUCO program. Then you're just going in and doing that for them. So, I think it's really important we look at that. And what do I say? Why have that led me to this tonight? Well, that's identifying this talent, which Drew and I are working on a project that we're hoping that will give us some more ammunition for prevention, intervention, and diversion. Because, Dwayne told me last week, Drew, that they had a second grader suspended. So, already. So just think about
We're in what, week 2,
week
3?
Yeah. And so now think about that. Okay.
Well, and I was talking to Zach Grimes. He's got a kid that he's aware of, 4th grader, that is already facing expulsion, and more than likely they'll just transfer him to ALE permanently because he fell out and they classified it as assault on a teacher in week 2, week 3. And this is not a bad kid.
Yeah.
This is a kid that has been through trauma. Yeah. I will admit that, but it's like he's got a familial structure. And when we look at this, I think it's very important when we start talking about this. This is not always bad kids who have failed. We've got a system that has failed kids that are struggling with certain things.
Correct.
And that's what I appreciate that about Dwayne in his heart, because as we were talking to him the other day, he was talking about we've got to be better at the safety net at the school. We've got to be better at engaging these parents at the school. We got to get out and go to homes at the school. They're talking the right things. Mm-hmm. But at this point in time, we've just got a whole lot of kids that have fallen between the cracks.
Look, and fortunately, the number is not overwhelming, which will allow us to qualitatively address the needs of this specific population, and look in long term, being able to offer transformational, opportunities that our, children coming from these situations that need help that we're trying to provide. And so it's going to be a challenge, but, doing nothing is not something that we're determined to not allow to happen. And really, really excited about what that's going to be. Man, I took Darren over today to let him see the boxing program. And it is, he got to meet with Coach Tucker, and he, got really excited about it. And then I took him over to see the welding program. And so let me tell you how I got some great news that I want to share with you today. While this evening, that it was really, really, it just tickled my heart when Coach Joe, our welding coach, he texted me and he said, this is what he said. He said, GED student just passed the intro test at Lexicon as a fabricator trainee. We are changing lives in real talk, coach. He was the one I was telling you about before y'all came in. Another student took him for the interview, teamwork, mercy dream. So now he went today and passed the test for the intro at Lexicon. Now he's a GED student that we're helping to get his GED, but now he got a skill to help him pay his bill while he's working at Lexicon. I mean, and that's, see, that's what we're talking about, real-time transformation. Yeah. So now, when you're starting off at $20 an hour, from zero to 20, you start in there thinking about, man, I'm working 8 hours. Just think when I'm working 8 hours a day, I'm getting 160, 5 days, don't let me get some overtime. Oh man, so 0 to 100,
And we're talking starting salary.
Yeah. That's not, I mean, because next thing you know, there are some jobs when you start welding, I mean, this is just the entry level position. This is not something once you got this other deal that you're moving up. And like Joe said, next thing you know, man, you're 60, 70,000 a year. You got a skill and you just keep going. But now you're getting in the game.
Which I think to differentiate between a typical path for a kid with no education is go to work flipping burgers at a restaurant for $10 to $15 an hour, and that's the upper limit.
Right.
There is no vertical.
Hopefully you may be getting the management, but now this is because your skill has identified you as being a qualifier. Okay. So now you can do something. You have been trained, just like a person would come in the morning and get with Bishop on the radio and get that training. He's been trained by the Bishop, to be able to effectively communicate with his audience, and you get to go all over the world and hear about the programming and the show that he's doing. Hey, we just want to give a prop out to Bishop before we go. Bishop, we're proud of you, man. And you got to go on a trip. Tell us, as we close, tell a little bit about your trip and how your show that had been acknowledged, and we want to make sure everybody knows that your show has been, man, all over the world listened to.
Well, we were able to. We were nominated for the Stellar Awards, the 41st annual Stellar Awards, and made it to the Final Four, and was able to do the red carpet experience and go. Do interviews with all of the various networks. That was, just tons of networks.
Well, I know you was waving the flag, were you? Final Four. The Final Four.
Final Four. It's a great feeling, and second ain't bad. When it just motivated us to be able to go back. Looking forward to going back again next year. Work a little bit harder, put a little bit more. A few more plays.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience.
Well, man, we're proud of you, and I always look forward to doing a show with you tonight. So, hey, until next week, 1st and 45, Coach Fitz, Pastor Drew, Bishop Fred, pray us out, bro.
God, we give thanks to you. Thank you for the great things that you have done. We just pray for little Dice in this game, and that we can come back and share some more great stories for your glory, God, and for our victory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.